1 in 8 soldiers has attacked someone after returning from combat operations, according to the interim results of a new study. The King's Centre for Military Health Research surveyed 5,000 veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan and found a potential link between combat and trauma and violence after the tour. In a moment, we'll be hearing from Dr Deirdre MacManus, who led the research. But first, this report from Rosie Leyden.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This film from the charity Womankind aims to highlight the plight of 1 in 4 women in the UK who will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. But new research has revealed 13% of soldiers returning from operations report incidents of violence at home or at work. Lewis Mackay served with the Royal Engineers in Helmand. He told the BBC he struggled with violent feelings when he came back.
It was just the sheer thoughts that went through my mind every time Emma did. It wouldn't even be something serious, you know. It could be just something, not putting something where I'd want it, and I physically was biting my hand not to hit her. You know, there was times I had to physically sit on my hands because the urge was there. You know, she didn't even do anything wrong. It was just everything. I just wanted to lash out.
You could tell he was angry, but he didn't show it physically as much. But you could just see it in his face. It was just like anything would be. I don't even know what he'll have to do. Anything, and he'd kick up and go on one.
Earlier this month, TA soldier Aaron Wilkinson was jailed for shooting his landlady dead just months after he returned from Afghanistan. He was diagnosed with a post-traumatic stress reaction which developed into PTSD but was not monitored or treated. Lewis Mackay says he thinks blanket screening for PTSD after a tour would address the stigma soldiers feel about reporting it themselves.
When we come back, we got asked, you know, if you felt any signs and symptoms. If you saw anyone with the signs and symptoms, then, you know, then approach us, then we'll give you help. But if anything, it's more of a, you know, you've just done a 7-month tour with, you know, with the squadron, with the regiment, and then you kind of, to put your hand up and say, I think I've got something wrong with me, you kind of feel a bit ashamed, and it's like, you know, we're a bunch of men, you know, so you don't want to come back saying, yeah, I've got something wrong, I need to go see a doctor or whatever.
In a statement, a Ministry of Defence spokesman said, "There is no evidence that suggests domestic violence is a greater problem within the service community than in the civilian community. We're examining a number of ways to develop mental health support for the armed forces, including the use of screening and surveillance techniques." Rosie Leyden, Forces News.
Well, earlier today I spoke to Dr Deirdre MacManus, the report author from the King's Centre for Military Health Research. I asked her whether conditions like PTSD are contributing factors.
What this research shows is that is one of the possible factors. So we found that a predisposition to aggressive and violent behaviour prior to joining the military was associated with subsequent violence. But when we took that into consideration and the socio-demographics of the group, we found that being deployed in a combat role conveyed an additional risk and exposure to traumatic events in combat.
All troops that return from combat operations go through decompression, where they're effectively acclimatising to return to family life, and they are mentoring systems to spot people who might have post-traumatic stress disorder or the symptoms of it. Are you saying that's not enough?
I'm not saying that the systems in place aren't enough. Post-traumatic stress disorder is just one response to a traumatic situation, and it's just one of the possible factors that can mediate between being in a combat role and subsequently being violent. There are lots of other problems that troops can experience as a result of their combat experience. That could be they could develop problems with alcohol misuse, or they can generally engage in more risky behaviour. So PTSD is just one of the problems.
Do you think more should be done to make sure the transition into civilian life is more smooth, so that when people actually get out of the forces, that they can make that move?
That's certainly something that I'm aware the MOD are looking into, trying to improve the continuity of contact or care in that transition period, whether or not that's transitioning from deployment back into civilian life or from the military into civvy life.